Be moving further with our OOPS discussion. So in the session 6a.py, we did understand how we can create an object, how we can write the attributes, but there is one more challenge, right? So you created different restaurant objects where attributes may be different. At the same time, this involves a heavy operation because every time you are going to create an object, you need to write these many lines of code again and again. So what I'm trying to say is you create empty objects and then you write the attributes for each and every object, which means it's a recurring job. It's a time consuming job for us. And the second point of discussion may be that the attributes which you are trying to have, they are not standardized. So one object may have 5 attributes, other may have 3 attributes. So we got some more cleaner way to code objects. Let's see how we can do that. So we are going to create a new Python file. So this goes like session 6b. So let us optimize how we code objects. So in order to optimize how we code objects, let us take another case study. So let us try to come up and write this object called cab. Okay. So what I'll do is I'll write this cab object. So we'll give a cab as a name or a title. How many number of persons can sit? What will be the drop off? What will be the price? We'll try to take these few attributes for our cab class. So I'll think of an object, right? So that was our first step. Think of an object. So I got this object as cab with the attributes, let's say a cab title. Then there was the price for the cab. There was a drop off time, right? And what else we had here? How many people it can accommodate, right? Or let's say a number of riders. So I'll just take these 3 attributes. Then step number 2 is create class, that is drawing. I'll say class called cab colon and say pass. Now the moment I say pass, we created the type, and step number 3 is create objects in memory from class. So how you do it? You say C1 is a cab, and then you can say C2 is cab, and then C3 is cab. Now why I'm creating 3 cabs here? Because I have these 3 cab objects available: UberGo, Moto and Premier. Right, so I got these 3 cab objects, so I created C1, C2 and C3. Now what is the point of concern? What is the challenge? Let us see the challenge for us. The challenge is writing the data and putting up the attributes. So I will say C1 dot title is UberGo. Then C1 dot price is, let us take it from here, 49.5, and it can be anything. Let's say 49. And then C1 dot number of riders is, let's say 4. Now the challenge starts here that you have to repeat the same statements for C2. Right? So for C2 this goes like Moto. Let the price be 20 and number of riders is 1. Now there are 2 challenges in the same operation when I'm creating the attributes. The first thing is you are repeating the code again and again, right? Let us write that. Number 1, code repetition for creating attributes. This is the first challenge. What is the second challenge? The second challenge is we may make a mistake in spellings. This is very common, right? I might come up and just say this guy has number of riders. Rather than saying num of riders, I say number of riders. and I somehow miss this R here, and somehow I miss this I here. Now these are the common mistakes which you can see, and this comes as a challenge. It means what? You are trying to create objects. You created three objects in the memory. All the three objects, they have three attributes, but the attributes, they will be different when it comes to their spellings. At the same time, you have to repeat the same steps again and again. Guys, is the challenge clear to everyone? Did we understand what is the problem? So you thought you created the class, then you created the objects, but we are not writing an optimized code. So an acknowledgement awaited from all guys, if we are clear till here. So the challenge is clear, right? Now, instead of writing the code in this manner, so we'll write an optimized version of class. So let's write optimized class code. I will say class cab. I will not say pass. I will say define underscore underscore init. The moment I will say define underscore underscore, you get to see this guy called init coming in. It's a predefined fellow. You just need to hit enter, and this comes as a function. So this is a function, and this function is predefined. And what we are doing is, so we will create it, and this function is what? It is property of class. In this function, I will say print init executed, and then I will say print self is comma self. Guys, I created this guy called init underscore underscore init, right? So it's a syntactical approach, two underscores, then in the end again two underscores, not one underscore or three underscores, right? So syntactically they are two underscores. So previously class contained nothing. We said pass. So class was containing nothing, and now this class is containing underscore underscore init with some guy called self. We don't know what is it. So we just said init executed in the print statement, and in the second print statement we printed self, and we'll also say and type is comma type of self, right? So let us print both the things. We'll print self and we'll print the type of self. What exactly this guy's self is, we don't know. So we can use our previous techniques to know what is self by saying type of self. Let us now create objects. So I'll say C1 is cab. So guys, C1, C2 and C3 are not objects. I hope you can recall this point, right? Now when I will run this program, let us see what happens. Now 3 times init is getting executed, and every time init gets executed, so there is printing of self. Who is self? So self is a cab object, add some hash code, and the type is cab. So what this is exactly, right? So in order to understand it, I'll just give an empty print here, and I'll say print me C1 is comma C1, and type is comma type of C1. Let us print C1, C2, C3, all of them will print here. So when I run this code, so for 3 different objects which are created, we get these 3 times init execution coming in. So it is very well clearly understandable. The moment we create object, init is executed. So this is the very first simplest approach of understanding what is init. Init is a function which is executed the moment we create object, right? And that is how we call it as a constructor. So the other term for this fellow called underscore underscore init is constructor, right? So meaning the moment object is created or constructed in the memory, this guy is automatically executed. Moving ahead, this reference variable c1 is giving us a hash code that's like this 10292FDA0 and the type as cap. For the first time when init was executed, it is giving me the same hash code and same type. Now for the second object construction, self is having the hash code 25C0 and C2 has okay, so I'll just say this guy has C2 and C3, my bad. For this guy C2, you see the same hash code, and for C3 the same hash code. So which means that we understood what is self. So self in underscore underscore init is a reference variable which holds the hash code of object. So what I'm trying to say is, for C1 assigned cap statement, self becomes C1, and for C2 assigned cap statement, self becomes C2, and for this guy, self becomes C3. So self will always hold the reference of the object which is in action. Guys, can I get one acknowledgement? Did you understand the meaning of self here? It's gonna change the moment your object will be different. Very important discussion here. So how do we create attributes? So we created attributes like this. So we have to come up and say this part. C1 dot title is Ubergo, then some price is 49, and then some number of riders is 4, right? So rather than writing it here, if I come and write here, but I cannot use C1, so instead of C1 I will use self. Now why I will use self? I will use self because self is a reference variable which holds the hash code of object, right? So self dot title means C1 dot title, C1 dot price, and C1 dot number of riders, but when this line number 47 is getting executed. When line number 48 will be executed, self will have the hash code what C2 has. Then for line number 49, self will become C3. Hence, for all the three objects, if I print their dictionary now, so C1 dictionary is comma C1 dot underscore underscore dictionary, then C2 dictionary and C3 dictionary. So let us run the code. So what you see is, for all the three objects pointed by C1, C2, C3, they have the same three attributes with the same three values. So constructor is a way to standardize what each and every object should have by default. Now when you buy a phone, there is a settings object in your phone with a default value. What should be the ringer volume? What should be the ringtone? What should be the brightness value? Should the GPS be enabled? So same way, what we have done, we have created this constructor, and this constructor will help us to standardize what attributes we need to put in each and every object, right? So underscore underscore init underscore underscore is helping us to create a standard code where each object will have same attributes with same values. Guys, can I get a smiley from all of you? So if you change this to not available, price as 0, number of riders as 0, and you run the code, so for all the 3 objects, you have the same values. I think this is...
Ishan,
yes, please.
how can we have the different...
Coming up to that point, Lalit, very soon. Coming up to that point. Now, this standardization which we have done, it comes with some limitations. The limitation says every object have the attributes. So we actually optimized this part, that we need not to write these many lines of code again and again. At the same time, there will be no problem in the spelling mistakes, right? So this challenge was fulfilled, but still now we are not optimized. In a way, every object which we created will have the same attributes and the same values. So it means later you can simply come up and say C1 dot title is Uber Go, C2 dot title is, let's say, Moto, and C3 dot title is some Premiere. But once again, if we have to do this, so this is an update operation, but why we will do it? Because this is quite similar to what we were doing it earlier. Because this operation means what? If the title is existing, update the value or create a new value or create a new attribute with a new value. So this will make no sense for us, right? So at the end of the day, we were able to standardize. So underscore underscore init is just helping me to standardize the structure of object. That okay, you created an object, so every object will have on a minimum of these 3 attributes as common. And at the same time, if you want, you can say C1 dot drop off is available in 20 minutes, right? So this way you can customize it later. So we assure when you create an object, you will get 3 attributes. Additional attribute can be created as per your requirement, but we have introduced standardization. So one of the problems which is getting resolved is standardization with this constructor. Now I can modify my constructor. I can say define underscore underscore init underscore underscore. But if you define the constructor again, what will happen? So if we define constructor again, previous constructor will be removed, right? So this guy will be removed from the memory. This has no impact anymore. So in this, I will be asking for 3 things: title, price, and number of riders. So here I will say self dot title is title, then self dot price is price, and self dot number of riders is number of riders. So what we got now? So now we have a constructor with inputs. So having a constructor with inputs means what? So you can now define that there will be 3 attributes in your object, but what should be the value? That can be decided by us. So now if you try to run the code, you get an error. Why you get an error? It says underscore underscore init takes 3 inputs, but at the time of object construction, you are passing no input, right? So this is an error. So now you cannot write these statements, so you need to put up the title price and number of riders here. So I'll say title as Uber Go. Then price as, let's say, 49. Number of riders as 4. So we got Moto. Then you put the price as, let's say, 20 and 1. So Premier, price as 100 and number of riders as 4. Guys, this is the way we have to create the objects now. So Uber Go goes into title, price goes into price, and 4 goes into this guy called number of riders, which will be further allocated here. Now when I run the program, okay, so I'll just pen down these update operations. So what you see, the data coming into your object. Now we have optimized the code in a perfect way. So you need not to work on default constructors or basic constructors. So you have to work with the constructors having inputs. So we call them as parameterized or arg constructors. Arg means arguments. Arguments means input, right? And this fellow over here is known as default constructor. So what is the role of default constructor, right? Default constructor says, I will help you in creating an object where the attributes and the values will be fixed for every object. So you change the values for the attributes later, or you add and remove the attributes later. But parameterized or argument based constructor says, I will fix the attributes for every object, but for every object the values can be different as per your inputs. So I hope guys now we are clear what is an object, how you can construct an object, and what is standardization, and how you can standardize the object with different values. An acknowledgement awaited from all of you.
Ishan.
Yes, guys, please. Yes, Lalit.
So this in even at the end of this we are putting the values the same way we are putting earlier. The only thing is that the titles which you say, the variables which we are defining, but for what we are defining has already been decided. For example, title has already been decided that we have to give price, we have to give number of riders, we have to give.
Correct. Now see, there's a difference when it comes to the coding part. So here you are writing 3 lines of code. So this was a bit more laborious. If you see, you need to write title, value, price, value, number of riders, value. So what you are doing here, so now if you create even 1000 objects, so you just need to write a single line to create one single object. So previous discussion was where you are writing 3 lines of code. Let's say the attributes they increase to 20. So if you have to, code 100 objects, so 100 multiplied by 20 lines of code, right? So where single line of code, a very big difference.
It's actually helping in executing, so the execution is fast.
Yes. At the same time, your time is getting saved when you are coding.
But these 3 parts, this is now we are making a mandatory field. If I do not give any of this is going to give me an error.
Yes, standardization. So that is what I am saying, the term standardization. You are making a standard that these 3 attributes that they should be there in the object. In the session number 6a, you are not doing any standardization. So you can have as many as attributes, or you can have no attributes, but now you are creating a standard. If you create a cab object, it will definitely have 3 attributes. So let's say we want to create a network configuration. So we know for a network configuration, these many attributes, they are mandatory. So you need to come up and create a constructor to standardize that network configuration. If you do not do it, it means what? In some configuration detail, you can put some data. In other, you may forget some attributes. So this is how it will be a conflict. I think Lalit, now this is fine.
Yes. So this is just the minimum. We can add on if you want to.
Yes, of course. So these are
Yes.
minimum. So for an example, now what I'll do, I'll just come up and say C1 dot, let's say a driver is John, and C1 dot registration number is some, let's say DL10AB1234. So if you come and run the code, so what you find is in the C1 dictionary, you find a driver and the registration number coming in,
Yes. Perfect.
right? And at the same time, right, if I say please delete C1 dot title, so these operations are still available for us. So title will be deleted. But at the time of object construction, we got a standard.
Okay.
So good to go, guys. Everyone else as well.
Yes. Thanks, Ishan.
Yeah. So one very very aggressive technique or a beautiful technique by which we can solve the problems in real life, right? To have your attributes, standardize your object structure. So these all constraints you cannot put up when you are creating dictionaries or lists. So these rules or standardizations, they don't come into the picture. So customizations, they don't come. Now what can be the next approach, right? I'm displaying dictionary, which is putting up the content for me. I don't want to make my user see the data in this format. I want the user to see the data in a beautiful format. So I'll try to write a code where I'll start with this, kind of an example, and I'll say print. Then I will say C1 dot title. So after the C1 dot title, I'll just try to put a bar and say comma C1 dot price, and then I will say print C1 dot number of riders. So I'll just try to come up with something like this, right? So number of people 4, and this is the price, right? So the price I can put \u20b9, so an Indian symbol rupee. And with number of riders, I will try to come up and just say riders. So riders allowed, kind of, right? So let us run this code. So this is for C1 now, right? So I'm printing the data for C1. This is the data printed for C1, right? Or even I can make it more interesting. So I'll say cab, comma C1 dot title. In the next print statement, let us take price, C1 dot price. So this is a bit more better. So here we go, guys, right? Now I need to repeat the same code. So I'll put an empty print here. So I'll do the same code repetition for C2 and C3, right? So I have to do it. So it means there is one more challenge. If you want to read the data and show it to the customer, some details, you are now again doing the same job again and again. For Uber Go, for Moto, and for Premier, you have to write the same statements again and again. So what I can do, I can create a function here in my class. So in the class, you go with the tab, 4 spaces. I can say define show cab. Now in the show cab, I write the same code. I write this same code like this. Only difference is you say self.title, self.price, and self.number of riders, because self will hold the hash code of the object. Now you need not to write these many lines of code. Guys, you see the optimization. You say C1 dot show the cab, C2 dot show the cab, and C3 dot show the cab. So you run the code, you achieve the same output. What is the benefit? The benefit is writing these many lines of code again and again. So now is replaced with only one line of code, show cab. So standardization while displaying the data in some specific format as well. So can I get an acknowledgement? Guys, the function is clear. What is this function, show cab? Now this can be any name of your choice. So self will automatically take what C1 is, and then C2 and then C3. Now the same three functions can also be executed by saying cab dot show the cab. You pass C1 and then you pass C2 and C3. So what does this mean? This is the class name. This is the function of the class. So this guy is function, which is property of class. Hence, you are accessing it with the class name. You call the method, you call the function, you pass the C1. C1 gets copied into self, and hence we display the data for C1. Even the same statement is translated to this same statement. So you write C1.showCab, it gets translated automatically to cab.showCab C1. So I'll write down here, gets translated like this. So you run the code. So here you are with the optimization on displaying the data from an object. So guys, what is an object? How you write the data in an object, how you standardize the object, how you come up and create functions so that you can save your time in an object. I hope this is clear to everyone. So I would like to get one acknowledgement from all in case we are all clear here, or anyone having any query to ask. So guys, you please feel free to ask. So we are good to go. So this will be all for the day. Why? Because I don't want to put up more here. So object-oriented programming structure is real fun, and it's even easy to implement. The point is you need to focus on this OOPS principle, thinking of object. Once you got an object, you need to know its attributes. So other than that is all same structural approach, guys. Now I will give one special assignment for you people, to you people. So try to come up and implement this movie as object, right? So in the Paytm, you get this guy called movie as an object. So try to implement one of the object oriented structure approach on this movie object, or you can even work on the router, right? So to be more effective, try to work on router on network configurations. So let me now stop this recording.